All right, ladies and gents, today we're going to be finding the surface area of prisms. So first things first, what is the surface area? And hopefully you've all heard this word before, or these words before, because it is something that you should know before you're in geometry, but if not, no biggie. Listen, surface area is legitimately just the area of your shape. It's like if you cut up in like number one, if you cut up that shape and you laid all of the pieces flat, how much area would it cover? So pretty much there are two different ways that we can go about finding the surface area of this rectangular prism. The first one is that we could find each rectangle, which there are 6 of them because there's 6 faces. We can find each rectangle and add them all together, or we could use this lovely surface area formula that's down here. We're going to do one problem each way. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of each of the 6 faces and add them together. So the first face I want to find is actually this face right here, that blue rectangle. And so if I am looking for the area of that blue rectangle, I'm going to multiply the length and the width, which are 13 and 9. And 13 times 9 is 117. The next rectangle that I'm going to find the area of, let's do this top piece right here. And that one, the dimensions for that green rectangle are actually going to be 7 because this side's 7 up here, and it's going to be 13 because that side's 13 as well. So if I want to find the area of that, it's going to be 7 times 13, which is going to be 91. And then the other shape that I want to find, or the other rectangle that I want to find the area for, is actually going to be right here, that red shape. And for that one, I'm going to multiply 7 times 9 because that side over there is 9, which is 63. Now you're probably saying, well, Miss Clark, you only found 3 areas. Well, ladies and gents, I don't need to find any more because all of those areas are going to repeat. Like, for example, that green rectangle that's on there is also down here. And so that red rectangle that's over to the left is also over here to the right. And so on and so forth. The blue rectangle in the front is also in the back. They just double. So when I go through and I want to find the area or the surface area of the whole entire shape, I'm going to add 117 twice, and I'm going to add 91 twice, and I'm going to add 63 twice. And so when I do all that, I'm going to get 542. And my units would be, because remember I'm talking about area, square feet. So that's one way that you can go about finding the surface area. The second way that you can go about finding the surface areas for, at least for rectangular prisms, is to use the formula over to the left, because really what you're doing is you're doing what we just did in problem number 1. You can see here that you have this lovely 2LW. Well, why is that 2LW? Well, LW is going to give you the area of that blue rectangle right there. Why is it multiplied by 2? Because there's 2 surfaces that will have that area. And then that 2LH, that's LH gives you the surface area of this green rectangle right here. And why is it multiplied by 2? Because this green rectangle back there also has the area of LH. And then this 2WH, that actually is the area, well, the W times H will give you the area of that red rectangle right there. And again, multiplied by 2 because in the back, this rectangle has the area of W times H. And so this surface area formula right here really encompasses everything that we did in problem number 1. So if I want to use the surface area, the biggest thing I need to do is identify what's my length, what's my width, and what's my height. And really, ladies and gents, it doesn't matter as long as you don't rename the length, width, and height to different things. Like, so for example, I could say that 5 is my length, and I could say that 16 is my width, and I can say that 10 is my height, and I'll be set and golden. I just got to plug those into the surface area formula. So the first thing tells me to do 2 times LW. So I'm going to do 2 times my length times my width. The second part of the surface area formula tells me to do 2 times my length and my height. And the third one tells me to do 2 times my width and my height. And if you have, you can like plug all of that into your calculator, or you can do a little math in your head. So like 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 times 16 is 160, and 2 times 5 is 10 again, and 10 times 10 is 100, and 2 times, I'm going to do 2 times 16 is 32, and 32 times 10 is 320. And so when I add all those pieces together, I'm going to get 580. And again, this is surface area, so it's really just area. So I'm looking for my units to be squared centimeters. Okay, and so that's how you do rectangular prisms or cubes.
Melissa Blessing Hartley, if you're still in the building, please come to the main office. Melissa Blessing Hartley, please come to the main office.
Anywho, sorry about that interruption. The next piece that we're going to talk about is all other prisms. So what do you do? Okay, well, again, I told you there's 2 different ways. You can do the method where, like we did in number 1, find the area of every single face and add them together. Or you can do the method of using this formula. So I'm going to teach you the method of every face first, and then we'll talk about how to find it using the formula. And you can use whichever one floats your boat. I really don't care, as long as you're getting the right answers. So like let's do number 4 together. So in number 4, if I wanted to go through and find the area of each face, let's start with our bases. So remember from yesterday's video that the bases have to be congruent and they have to be parallel. So my bases here are going to be these triangles. Okay. So if I want to find the area of that triangle, that's going to be 1/2 times the base times the height. And keep in mind, your base and your height must always be perpendicular. Down here, this tells me that that's a perpendicular angle, or that's a 90-degree angle up there. Well, guess what? It's the same up above. So my base and my height are the 9 and the 12. And so when I do that, it's going to be the same thing as 6 times 9, which is going to be 54. Yeah, so, and then, but keep in mind, if we're trying to add up all of our totals over here, so if we want our total area, what we want to do is we don't want to add 54 just once. We actually want to add it twice. Why? Because we have 2 faces that have that area. Okay? Then the next piece that we want to do, let's say we find this rectangle right there. So for that one, the dimensions there are 9, and this side right there is actually 16, same as this one over here. So that one I'm going to find the area of, it's going to be 9 times 16, which is 144. And I actually only want to add that one once, because there's no other rectangles that are exactly identical to that. The next shape that you want to find, or the next space we could find, is this red one right here. For that one, the dimensions are 16 and 12. So the area of that is going to be 16 times 12, which is 192. And finally, the last area that you actually want to find is this front one, and you might miss it, but there is a front side that we haven't found, that front rectangle, and that one, the dimensions are 15 and 16. So you do 15 times 16, which is 240. And so over here I need to add 192, and I also need to add 240. And so if I want to find the total of surface area, sorry, could just erase that and say surface area. The surface area of this triangular prism is going to be 54 plus 54 plus 144 plus 192 plus 240, and so 684 square meters. Okay, so that's one method. Now, the second method, I need to explain a little bit about this area or surface area formula. So I'm actually going to pull up a video because my iPad for some reason won't let me use GeoGebra all the time, depending on which one it is. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't, but there's this really great thing I want to show you pretty much. So if you're looking at this side, first off, I want to talk about what this means. First, find the lateral area, or the area of the non-bases, and then add the area of the bases. So I think once we go through and see the picture, I'll explain to you what the area of a lateral base is. So here, what you're going to see is I have GeoGebra up, and there I have a, let's see, 6-sided, so hexagonal prism. I'm going to pretty much flatten out that 3D figure so I can see the surface area. So that's the area that we'd be trying to find. Now, if you can see here, these were my two bases, okay? So if I want to find the surface area, I definitely need to find the area of the bases. If I find one, I can just double it because they're congruent and parallel, so congruent. Now, this middle piece, if you notice, it's a rectangle. That's the lateral area that's on your notes. It forms a rectangle. This piece right here, that dimension of the rectangle, is really just the height of your shape. So let me see if I can find that cursor. There it is. Oh no. Where did my slider go? Well, let me set it. Yeah, so that part right here is just the height of your figure. Now, where does the width of your rectangle come from, or your lateral area? It's actually the perimeter of your hexagon. So notice that that perimeter of your hexagon is going to flatten out and become the length of your rectangle. See that? Again, that perimeter of your hexagon is going to flatten out and become the length of your rectangle. So if I want to find the surface area, I could find the bases and multiply them by 2, because we'll find the area of the one base and multiply it by 2. And then I could find this rectangle by multiplying the height of my three-dimensional figure by the perimeter of my base. And so that's exactly where this formula comes from. That HP that's right here is going to be the rectangle that's created, and the 2 times your base is because you find the area of one base and you multiply it by 2. Okay? So yeah, let's go through and do one problem like this. So for example, if I'm going to use the formula, I need to find all the pieces of the formula. I need to know my height of between the bases, I need to know the perimeter of the base, and I need to know the area of the base. So let's actually do 6 together. So first things first, my base here is a trapezoid. Okay, because the other trapezoid is back there, parallel and congruent. So the height in between the two bases that I'm looking for is going to be this 15. So remember, your base and your height are going to be perpendicular. And if I took that trapezoidal prism and sat it on the base, that 15 feet is what's going to be shooting up perpendicular from it. Also, it's the distance between the two bases, okay? And then the second thing I need to do is find the perimeter of my base. And so see that I have the 12 here, the 23 here. This side over here is going to be 20 because of the 20 back there. And then this side right here is going to be 18. So all I got to do is add them up. 18 plus 12 is 30. 30 plus 20 is 50. And 50 plus 23 is 73. And then the part that might take the most work is to find the big B. And remember, big B represents the area of the base. So it's a trapezoid, so you're going to do 1/2 times the height. Now be careful. When I say this height, I'm talking about the height of your base. Don't get it confused with the height of your prism. This is the height of your base. Keep in mind what you're thinking about. So the height of my base is going to be 12. And then I need to add the two bases of that trapezoid together. So 18 plus 23. And so when I do that, that area of that base is going to be 246. Okay? And then after you find all the pieces for your surface area formula, you just plug them in. Okay? So height is 15. Perimeter of the base is 73. Plus 2 times the area of your base, which is 246. And so that is going to be 1,587 square feet. All right, tomorrow we're going to practice this in class, so please come prepared with any questions that you have. See you then.